Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is build video 4 for the Stealth Fighter, and what we're going to do today uh, is try to mount the engine or the motor. Now I do want to say I always want to try to show you every part of what I do, but the last video was 35, and as you know, I said I want to try to keep it at 25 or so. So to speed things up, I have cut some pieces out. I needed to do this to find out exactly what I could and couldn't build to show you all, to speed this along, to make sure I'm covering everything in the build video. So just to show you, I have pre-cut out the pieces. These each was separate, and this was the center. It's its own piece, and it's pushed down the middle. All I did was cut a small groove and then run a dowel, or in this case a chopstick, down to create a crease so that it gets a bend. I've also pre-cut the front. I did this so that I could mock it together to find out inherent problems, to make sure that I'm putting it together in the correct way. This is very important to do as you're building stuff. Mock stuff up, fit things into place, make sure they fit correctly, and make any adjustments. I did have to make an adjustment on this rear piece. When I stuck this down and came around and stuck this down, they did not meet. This was actually a little straighter by about 1/8 of an inch. So I cut 1/8 of an inch off this top side to create the angle, so that when these two met, they meet nice and flush. So this is why you do these kinds of things. This is why you pre-fit everything before you start gluing stuff, so you don't have to deal with problems later once everything is glued down. Along with this, taping them up like this, putting them into place, and taping them into place, I needed to find out why I did this, is find out whether I needed a spar and where I needed a spar. So we are going to put a carbon fiber spar in. We're going to put it in right here, because once I put the body in, the wingtips here were very, very floppy, and that's not going to help in flight if they're flopping like that. So we're going to use the carbon fiber spar to strengthen that up. Also, with putting this in, I found I do not need a spar here. That body, once it's glued on, it creates plenty of strength, and it's going to be really, really strong. So, on to what we're going to do in this video. We're going to mount our motor. So I've created a motor mount. This is simply a 1.5 by 1.5 piece of wood. I used paint stir sticks, the large ones. They're exactly 1.5, so I just needed to cut it a little bit. It's nice because they do have little marks on them, so it lets you go right to where 1.5 inches is. You don't have to pre-measure it. It's already there on it, so it's a helpful little hint. I've got my center mark on. I've also marked my center mark here. And as you know, when we were gluing this fuselage on, we're a little off on our marks. Not by much, we're about a 1/16 off. But what that does mean is that our center here is going to be off just ever so slightly. That's why I pre-tested the pieces. It does misalign stuff just ever so slight, so I had to make sure I had room for adjusting everything to make sure it fit right. So I do have that, otherwise I'd have to probably redo the piece if it was just that far off. But we can make it work. So what we're going to do here is I've created a square. That's a nice angle here, 90-degree angle, perfectly square. We've tested it. Let's see here. Boom, nice and square. And we need that because when we go to mount our motor, we need it to be square. We don't want it down like this. That's going to create wrong thrust in there. It's not going to fly well. So to do this, I've taken a piece that is the same size as our motor mount. I have marked where center is on that so that I can align it when gluing it. Now, hopefully you can see this and my hands don't get in the way. As I put this up on it and I square it, there's a gap. So what we're going to do to fix that is, as we glue this in, we're going to add a little bit extra glue, but we're not going to glue this top part right here out of 1/4 inch or so. We're going to stop the glue there. Reason why is we're going to hold this in place while that glue dries, and then when we remove the square, this will hold into place and we'll have that gap. We're then going to take an additional piece of foam and we're going to glue that down into it. That way that'll fill that gap, make it nice and strong. Any gaps that we have on the side, we'll then go back with our glue gun and we'll fill that in. So to begin this, we take our paper right off of this piece. We're going to peel that. And we're going to peel a few different sections. Remember, on our fuselage, in that back plate, we left the paper here. So we'll need to take that off also. I also transferred that mark down, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to transfer it back onto the front so it helps me with alignment. Sometimes pens don't want to work. There we go. So it's easy to see. Now we need to peel this paper. This is not going to be the easiest thing. Maybe I'll luck out and it'll come right out. If need be, you can always come in with a razor blade gently and just pick it right like that. There we go. And we're going to peel that. We don't want to ever glue paper to paper. As you see how easy that came off, that's the same thing that's going to happen when you glue it, is you're counting on that bond to be the strongest thing, and it's not going to be. That paper can peel up, and then in this case with the motor mount, it will fall right off. So we've got our mark. This is our back side. We're going to begin to glue. We've got our square ready to go. And we're going to glue. Oh, I need a glue stick. Real important to make sure you've got glue stick. Now this one's not going to go all the way. I'm going to cheat you a little trick. Heat the end of your glue stick. Gets nice and liquidy, and then you're going to come around here and you're going to put it into place and butt it up against that other one. You're just going to hold it there. This is going to create a longer glue stick, so hopefully I get a nice, clean, smooth dispensing of glue. So again, it's our front side with our mark. That's the bottom. We're not going to do the top, and we're going to begin gluing. So liberal amount of glue there. See, I stopped that 1/4 inch from the top. So we'll come around here, and we're going to line it up on our mark. We're going to use a square to push it in, and then our fingers to hold it flush to the square, keeping that gap. And we're just going to hold it until it dries. Again, that takes 45 seconds usually to tack up nice and strong. In this case, because we're going to be adding glue in, I want to make sure that the glue that's in there right now is as dry as I can get it, as cooled off basically as I can get it, because I'm adding more in. I don't want things to move once I add in that glue, because the heat from the glue I'm putting in will warm up the existing glue and can have a tendency to allow things to move. It heats it up too much. Alright, so that's good. We're nice and square. That's exactly what we want. We're flush against the bottom. Now I'm going to take our second piece here. And it doesn't matter that it's bigger. We actually want that so we can handle it. We're going to cut off the excess. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to let glue just drip down inside. And we're going to take our foam piece and lift this slightly, and we're going to set that in. Come back to our square. Make sure we're square, and just push it down as far as we can until I'm seeing a little bit we're getting off the square, so I'm coming back. You might want to get a little squeegee piece to clean up any glue coming out the sides. Just like that. Come back again, make sure we're square. And we're looking nice and square. Now we're going to let that dry. Now the nice part is we dripped our glue down, and then by pushing down this piece, it's filled in our gaps, so we won't have to come in from the sides. That's a great added benefit to not having to deal with that. So now that this is tacked up enough, we're going to come along here with our razor blade, and we're just going to lightly trim that right off. And we don't want to cut through anything but our piece here. Oh. Well, that happened. Alright, we got to go back to our square. Probably should have let that dry a little bit longer. Alright, we're back to being square. This is the thing for videos, you know, I try to speed things up a little bit. Just gently cut along until it frees itself. Not quite there. I'm just going gentle. There we go. Frees itself nice. So now we've got a nice piece in there, all set, all glued on the sides. I see no gap, and we're good to go. Now, if we wanted to strengthen this up a little bit, that's not a bad idea. We can come along and just add a bit of glue to the top here, gluing those pieces together. Coming again with a squeegee and just squeegeeing it nice and flush. Come back across, flush. And now what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that it bonds those pieces together, make a nice strong joint for us. Alright, what I've done is just cut the excess off of this. That way I can continue to use that squeegee. Alright, so now we're here and we're going to put our motor in. Now I've made our center mark. It's on all the sides. I've done it on this back side mainly because I'm trying to show you and I won't be able to see it. Normally I would look from the front, make sure it's even, and then push in. But because I'm doing it at a different angle than I would normally build, so you can see, I put it on the back. That way I can line it up and make sure that everything's going to be good. Now, test fit, right? Put down on our center mark. Let's get my head in for a second and go off a little bit. And making sure we're on our center mark, and we're going to push. Just wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it until we're nice and flush. Alright, so that's put holes, you can see here, 4 holes where those screws go in. That's going to help adhesion because the glue will actually grab onto these screws now. We're going to make sure we get glue down into there when we push this in. We're not worried about the wires yet. We will cut a hole in the top here, and that'll allow us to pass our wires through into what will be the cockpit for all of our electronics. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue our motor in. Now this is really important. We want to make sure we get plenty of glue. We're going to glue our screws. Just like that, a little dollop on there. We're going to glue the sides. All of them. And we're going to get a little dollop in the center. Alright, and we're ready to go. Now, those screw holes will help us line things up so that we don't have to worry whether or not we're on center or not. I'm just going to double check. Yep, we are on center. And we're going to push that in. There we go. And we're going to hold it. And we're going to let it dry. And we're going to sing a little song. See, I don't know if you can see this on camera. I got a little piece of glitter. I helped my mom with a project that had glitter on it, and you may have seen the sign in the background. It says "Glitter makes me bitter." It's mainly because glitter gets absolutely everywhere. I will wear contacts sometime. I do have glasses, but getting a piece of glitter in your eye is not fun. It definitely hurts. It sucks to try to get it out. So again, I do not care for glitter. I try not to use it in anything. And there we go. Our motor's now mounted in. It's good and straight. I can see it's true and through. So we're good there. You notice I did a straight cut here and a little notch cut there. That notch cut is so that I can get in easily and remove this to change props out. It gives me a little extra room versus just a nice straight piece where I'd have to try to wiggle in there. That's intentionally designed that way. All right, that feels really good. Next thing we're going to do is come into here, and we're going to cut a hole just by go straight down and across and straight and over this way. We'll poke our piece in, pop that right out. Doesn't need to be a big hole, just needs to be big enough to pass the wires through. And we'll go one at a time. One. Two. And three. And as you can see, fits in nice and neat, makes it nice and clean, and it'll be covered. Alright, that is the motor done. Now the next thing we're going to do is mount our carbon fiber. In order to do this, this will be the last thing that we do in this video till the next one. Make sure we got our pen and it's working. Mark. Like I said, sometimes these do not do. We're going to eye in where we want it, which is about a ½ inch off of this edge, and that we're even on the sides. And to keep that even, we're going to create a dot just off of either side. That's going to allow us to come in with our ruler and cut that. Now, here is what we are going to do. We've got our two marks. We're coming just a touch off of those marks. And the reason why, this is going to be really tough. Let me do it this side first. Come just off of our marks. And then instead of cutting at a 90 degree, we're going to actually cut at a 45. That way we get right onto that mark. We come just a touch more away from that. Make sure we're on our mark. And we start the blade to the side of that mark. In. And we're just going to gently, oops, I'm going to go at an angle, you see I'm tearing it. And we're just going to pull that down, making sure that our tip doesn't go down too far. We don't want to cut through, we just want to cut into it. And to there. And I'm going to reverse this to do the other side. Again, matching where we were, coming in at that 45 and angling so it doesn't tear, and we're going to pull on down this line. Stop before I get to my finger. Come along. And we're going to continue down right to there. And we just make a small cut on either side to release it, and if we've done our job right, we basically release out that piece. Just a little bitty triangle, and we're going to test fit our piece. Alright, it's still sticking up a little bit more than I want it to, but we've got this now to follow. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to cut ever so slightly deeper, just following that line that we've created. Again, use the ruler if you don't feel comfortable doing it freehand as I am. Now it's going to be really hard to get that little bit out, so I'm going to use the end of my rod here And I'm just gonna ever so gently push that down. It looks like in some places I've actually cut through. That's okay, we're gonna glue this so it's not really gonna matter. Alright. Now we're setting down, testing our piece. I'll go ahead and continue down through the piece. Holding that edge. I know it's separating it. You can see, well, maybe you can't. I'm dragging some of that thin material out. We'll have to go to the side and release that out. We've gone through, our carbon fiber is a little bit bigger than we originally thought. So we've gone down through, which is fine. That's just where it wants to be. Now, if you don't have a plastic mat like I have here, the glue releases from this, which is really, really nice. I'm going to show you what you can do. Reach over here. Sorry about that squeak. That's my chair. I'm going to take a piece of wax paper that is the length of what we need, and we're going to slide that underneath. The wax paper makes it so that it won't stick to anything but the wax paper, and the wax paper will release it, especially since we have a gap there. Then we're going to come across with our glue gun, and we're going to just lay a tiny bead on one of the edges. Okay, I don't want it to squeeze through too much. Just a tiny bead. And we're going to take our carbon fiber and we're going to lay it right in there. Now, if you don't want to get your fingers hot glue, you can use the end of your dowel or chopstick and just press it on in, just like so. Okay. And we don't want this to warp, so we're going to take our weights. We're going to make sure this is nice and flush as it dries. Alright? Make sure it's nice and flat. That's going to help when we put our elevons on to make sure that they're not off a little bit. The wings are nice and straight. It's really important since what we're putting in is to keep them from flopping and keep them nice and straight. So we're very happy with the way that's turning out. What we're going to do, we're going to grab an extra piece of foam. I should have one here. And we're going to come and we're going to put a bead of glue right on top of that carbon fiber rod, right across the top. And we're going to squeegee off that extra glue. Over this side and squeegee it off like so. What that does is it fills in the gaps around and flattens everything out, makes it nice and clean. Okay, I'm just making sure that we're nice and flat. We're going to let that dry. We'll let it dry real, real good, because again, this is really important. This is our structure. This is what's going to keep the wing nice, flat, and level, exactly the way we want it. And again, wax paper, it's really inexpensive. You don't use a lot. You can use it again and again. Sometimes I'll have extra. I do use the wax paper to make stickers to put on. I have a video that shows how I made one and applied it onto the Piper cup for the window. Just made a template, laid down nice and smooth using a squeegee, flattened out my tape, put the template on there, cut it out, and then pulled it right off, and it's just like a sticker at that point. You peel the backing, partially lay it where you want it, stick it, pull the rest of the backing, lay it flat. Works really, really nice. If you haven't seen that, I suggest going back and looking at that video again. Alright, so it's been a few minutes. This should be okay. We're going to take our weights off. Why we've had to really set that in is because this is going to come and sit just like this. So we don't want to notch this. I want it to lay perfectly flat. It's going to glue to it, and it's going to really help with the structure of everything once it's all gone together. Now I do want to go a little bit further in discussion of this, and then we're going to end this video. Part of the reason why these are separated but taped together is I'm going to glue this edge, put it down into place, hold it, let it set as there. That's going to set the angles on my sides, and then I can remove the tape and pull this piece off, and my sides will remain in spot until I'm ready to finally glue this in. That way I can reach in here, add in my electronics. Remember, we're putting servos in. I'm not sure where we're going to put the servos. That depends on balance, how much weight I need to pull back in the tail. Just by moving those servos, the further away from center or CG that we put it, the more weight it becomes. So that 9.5 gram servo, as it's moved back further from the CG, actually creates more weight. So super important to not just go with your initial thing. We're gonna balance it. We're going to put things and move them around to find out exactly where we need to go. And we still have a long way. We've got other things that we're going to be putting on it. So we'll get to that point. But this is where we are in our fourth video. Sorry about that. The motor is mounted. We have our spar in. It's looking good, nice and smooth, and everything will be good. As I said, with that paper you see now, this just comes right off. I'll make sure to show that. I've got one little spot here. It looks like it's sticking. It tears the paper, but we can come back and we can remove that wax bit later. Anyways, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. Go make it. You can do it. And I'm always happy to answer questions. Comments are definitely welcome. I want to thank one of our subscribers for commenting on the penny flyer video. It is great for kids. It's a wonderful idea. Go out and do it. Have a lot of fun. So go make it. You can do it. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.